what I'm really going to be talking about is going forward. And I'm really going to be doing that through our climate action plan. You should each have one of these at your table. So this really would be a guide through my talk. I won't talk too long, so don't worry. But this will really help facilitate, I think, what I'm saying as well. So really charting the course for the next 5 years. Fortunately, we actually have an actual scientist coming tomorrow who's going to get to speak on the science of climate change and how that impacts us in Northeast Ohio. So I'm really going to jump right into taking action. What can we do to take action collectively and individually? So this is the why. Why put together a plan? While reducing greenhouse gas emissions is crucial for stabilizing our climate, and really ensuring Cleveland, I would say, is recognizably Cleveland 100 years from now, it also serves as an integrator, as Nina mentioned this morning. It's really a foundational metric to integrate a lot of the stuff we all love and we all love to work on. This plan, it's really about building thriving and healthy Cleveland neighborhoods through climate action, and that's really how we're presenting it. And by doing so, we're going to spur economic growth. We're going to make the city more resilient, both to the impacts of climate change now and into the future, but also to other shocks we talked about earlier this morning, the recession. So just making us a little more localized in that fashion. Creating that shared ownership and leadership, which we're doing today. Saving money for residents, businesses, and other organizations. And of course, improving the health and quality of life in Clevelanders. The why for you may be different than this, and I think that's great. The more perspectives we have coming to this plan, I think the stronger it is. So you might see yourself in this slide. You may have met someone already today who is represented in this slide, or it's an organization you work with or are very proud of. These are the organizations that help build this plan. This is our Climate Action Advisory Committee, made up of over 50 diverse stakeholders across Northeast Ohio. And just quickly, if you were at any piece a part of this plan, whether these organizations or you made comments on it or talked to us individually about it, just could you quickly stand and be recognized? So one thing we know how to do in Cleveland is collaborate, and I think this plan represents that. So working together, this group, what did we do? The first step in this plan was really developing that shared vision, right? What is climate action for Cleveland? We developed a greenhouse gas inventory or a carbon footprint. I think that's on page, the high-level summary, I think is on page 12 of this guide. Yep, page 12. We have a ginormous spreadsheet if you're ever interested to dive into the numbers, but it was quite a heavy task, and many of these folks helped get that data. You cannot manage what you're not measuring, so that was really one of the first steps. We developed goals and targets. So first, the big overarching target, greenhouse gas emissions. So we have a 2010 baseline for emissions in Cleveland. The goal is by 2020, we're going to reduce emissions by 16%. By 2030, we're going to have 40% reductions, and then by 2050, sort of that big, hairy, audacious goal mentioned earlier, 80% reduction of our emissions in Cleveland. Of course, we're also tracking those emissions against other what we call intensity factors, right? So against population and also against our economic growth. So we want more people moving back into the city. We want more economic growth, which can sometimes lead to more emissions. So we're also tracking how that plays out. But finally, today, this summit, this next day and a half, is really about taking this plan and implementing. We are at an implementation stage, which is really exciting. So this was a big, heavy lift. Going forward is an even heavier lift, so we're going to really need all of you. So 33 actions. And within each of these actions, there's multiple next steps within the next few years that we think are bold yet achievable for us to accomplish, both at home, at work, and also in our communities and neighborhoods. So these are broken out into 6 focus areas. When you registered, of course, you signed up for a focus area, and that's why you're seated at the particular colored tabletop where you're at. So we really invite you to see yourself in one of these actions. What's something that you can dedicate your talents to working on, again, at home, at work, or in your community, or in your community. Another thing with these 33 actions is we looked at, how much of these have to do with adaptation, so adapting to the impacts of climate change. I think 32 of the 33 have some level of impact on mitigation, so in climate change parlance, that's reducing emissions. But how many actually help us prepare for climate? And we found about 13 of these actually also had an adaptation overlay to them. And we also want to look at equity. How much of these have a place for everyone in Cleveland to take a part in? And we found that over half of these actions have some sort of equity component to them. So this was really key for the committee, and I think we delivered on that front. So I'm just going to go through a couple actions in each area where we think there's an opportunity at this summit and even the next year or two to really move the ball forward and really design around. Of course, there's freedom to work on anything really you want at the summit, but we think these are really, really prime opportunities right now. So first, yellow in the back. Well done. I'm just going to highlight a couple first. Might as well start with action one. Residential energy efficiency in green buildings. This has been brought up a few times today already as a success. And there are a lot of successes to build off from the challenge programs. So is there opportunity for having more challenges within your neighborhood to have residents sort of almost competing friendly with each other or across neighborhoods on green buildings? We have many really great existing programs. Janita talked about the Energy Saver program. Environmental Health Watch, I think they're here as well. There they are. I mean, a really amazing deep retrofit program. I think about 12 houses with deep retrofits, up to 70% savings, cost effectively. How can we keep expanding these this great foundation? Enterprise green communities and so on. And there's also been talk about sort of this one-stop shop for residential green building. So if I'm a resident of a small business and I say, I want to learn about green building in Cleveland, resources, where should I go? I'm not sure we have that quite yet. So is there an opportunity to really bring together a lot of organizations to make it easier on the end user? So all these, I think, are possibilities for action. And the same goes for commercial and industrial. We all know energy efficiency in green building pays for itself in savings, employee satisfaction, which you sometimes don't think about, and many other areas, reducing the risk of energy price volatility as we go forward. And a lot of us, I think myself included, certainly over the last couple of weeks, spend a lot more time at work than at home. So why wouldn't we want to make those places very healthy places to thrive and simply be happy? So problem is, this isn't happening everywhere. There are a lot of people are doing great work, but the vast majority of essentially existing buildings haven't gone through an energy retrofit or even an audit. We all know this makes sense. So what can we really do to make this as easy as possible? We have folks like the Cleveland 2030 District are doing just that. How can we make this as easy as possible on commercial building owners to take action on energy? All they're asking is just measure your data and let's talk and let's try to figure it out. And what we found as a city, we're measuring all our buildings, all 150 plus of them, for all our costs. And it's already paying dividends just by seeing what we're actually using in terms of cost and usage. Of course, we talked about COSI. How can we keep building on COSI's work with small businesses? We have 6,000 or so small manufacturers in Northeast Ohio. How can we build on the foundation that E4S and others have created over the years going forward to engage them? Recognition. Is there a forum to really recognize the leaders in green building? We talked about theater earlier with the Allen Theater. Cleveland Public Theater has done great work. A new passive theater is going on the Near West Side as well. How do we really recognize those projects, as well as many other organizations who integrate this throughout their operations? And finally, schools as well. We are a leader nationally in Ohio on green schools, new schools. But what about our existing schools? Is there opportunities there? All right, going on to the renewable folks. Where are you? You are there. Yeah, thank you. So we talked a little bit about this with the offshore wind farm. Here's a picture actually from some soil testing out there. So this is about where those 6 turbines would go. Looking back at the city, just really amazing project. So at this summit, we're not going to solve the technical challenges with this project. A lot of other very smart people are working on that. Our role here is really to say, how can we really show this support throughout the community? So not only signing here, but can you get everyone in your organization, in your block club, to sign the pledge? How can we get an organization to write a letter in support of this project? So things like that to really be creative in terms of supporting this project. The mayor touched on this morning. Utilities meeting or exceeding the energy efficiency and renewable energy standards. This is in the blue category, so renewable, but also including energy efficiency in there as well, especially for the purposes of this summit. There's a lot we can do here in Cleveland on energy efficiency and renewables. We've seen that today, but a lot depends on state and federal support to move this ball forward. So what can we do in the next 2 days to really catalyze actions and ensure that these standards are met? Moving on to transportation, sustainable mobility, the purple people. Okay. So first, let's look at public transit, carpooling, car sharing. These are all really moving forward in Cleveland. Just a quick show of hands, how many people have participated in a car share program? And this isn't just like borrowing your friend's car when you have a flat. So a decent amount. In Cleveland, both CASE and CSU have a few car shares, but many other neighborhoods and organizations are interested in expanding that fleet of car shares, like Zipcar is one example of a company that does this. So what can we do here to begin to think about that strategically as a city? I mean, it's really amazing, just having that fleet of cars, and when I used to live in DC, I didn't need a car, and one big reason was car share was there. And whenever I needed a trip about once a month to drive, I would just take out the car, drive, and come back a few hours later, and it really was pretty cheap. And a lot of people can get rid of a second family car, sell that off. So it can be really great for families as well. RTA, we've heard, is seeing increased ridership, and they're open to new ideas for continuing that momentum. So do you have any ideas that would expand the use of transit in Cleveland? And of course, biking and walking. We have a sharing thing going on with transportation. So like car sharing, bike sharing is very feasible in Cleveland. Also, quick show of hands if you've ever participated in bike sharing in a place like DC or Columbus. Wow. It's a lot. So I think close to half of you have. I think most people who've done it really enjoy it. Just picture downtown for now with about 30 different bicycle stations spread around downtown, each of those with about 10 bikes per station. So if, say you work at Tri-C at lunchtime and you want to bike over to West 9th for lunch, just hop on a bike, check it out, ride there with your friends, and check it into a different station, and off you go having your meal. It really does increase the vibrancy, and it's also great for tourists and many others. Or maybe you want to work on a different topic with biking and walking. Zero waste. We talked about it. Next year is the year of zero waste. So are you passionate about making Cleveland a model for holding zero waste events, increasing composting and yard waste collection, reducing the use of disposable plastic bags, and many, many, many other things? Somehow getting every neighborhood engaged on zero waste in 2014. If so, join the green folks back there. So moving on to land use and clean water and trees. Who does not love trees? This is another great example going back to the mitigation adaptation piece. So trees reduce emissions, right? They actually suck carbon dioxide out of the air. So they are a mitigation action, but it's also an adaptation action. So by planting trees in Cleveland, we can reduce the urban heat island effect. So on really hot days, they act as really a refuge, a cooling refuge, as well as things like stormwater and really heavy rain events. They really help level those events out so our water stays clean. We have amazing Cleveland Metro parks, Emerald Necklace, lovely parks within the city, but there's a lot of work to be done to make Cleveland the forest city once again. And I think there's a lot of people here passionate about that topic, so I'll be interested to see what emerges in the next couple days on that topic. Just a quick note, the county, I think Dan Meany is here. They've been working on an urban tree canopy assessment for all of Cuyahoga County. And what that means is we're going to be able to see, really by block, what kind of urban tree canopy we have, which is going to allow us to really prioritize where we replant trees, right? Along with many other factors. So if trees is your passion, work on this. Food. Cleveland, a national leader in food, over 300 now community gardens and urban farms in the city. not to mention goats that mow our grass. I hope everyone's seen that. But how can we continue to scale up the local food system? Supporting existing projects, expanding those, but also making it easier for local food entrepreneurs to produce food here and feed Clevelanders healthy food. Water, 2015, we talked about as the year of clean water. Cleveland Water Alliance, Drink Local, Drink Tap, and other organizations already thinking about how to prepare for this year. Similar to waste, how do we get every neighborhood engaged on water? It is a treasure here, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that. So if you're interested in water, let's work on that. And finally, the community engagement, the red tables over here, and adaptation. Cleveland is a city of neighborhoods. I think this was mentioned earlier as well. How do you take this citywide plan, many sort of big, hairy, audacious goals, and make that real for people in the neighborhoods? And that's really what this action and this whole focus area is really about. And this, as you may have noticed, also cuts across the other focus areas, right? Community engagement's important in each of the 6, but the committee felt it was so important as a topic as well as public health that it really needed its own love. So we broke that out as well. A lot of the work here, I think, certainly in the near future, is building off a neighborhood action toolkit we're developing. And Jenny Hirsch, a consultant on this project, is going to talk in a few minutes on that. But this has been piloted in the 2 eco-districts, Kinsman, as well as Detroit Shoreway, as well as Greater University Circle. So really excited about the work here and really engaging in the community. And people seeing what they're already really doing and link that to sustainability and climate action. The idea in the long term is how can we get every neighborhood to really use, implement, and create a really toolkit for themselves, working with the community development corporations and others to do that. And finally, the last section I'm going to highlight is preparing for the impacts of climate change. How do we systematically begin preparing for these impacts and ensure our vulnerable populations and ecosystems are as resilient as possible? Our keynote tomorrow morning, Chuck Kuchar, is going to go into this. But in essence, climate change exacerbates a lot of the existing management challenges we already face, right? So it's emergency operations, hazard management plans, protecting our watershed, the health of Lake Erie, the health of people. But it sort of adds a layer on top of that. So how do we begin addressing that systematically and really begin preparing? So this is certainly city coordination, but this is really a regional issue. And you can argue global, of course, but it's really a regional issue to think about the impacts of climate. So if you're interested in joining this growing community who's really thinking about this and is really on the forefront of this topic, please do.